everybody, I'm Elise, your host for R828, the podcast. I simply want to inspire you for the better, and it is my prayer that the content here will do just that. R828 is simply an abbreviation for Romans chapter 8, verse 28 in the Bible, which says, "We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose." And I don't know if you know, but your life has a purpose. I don't care what you've been through. I don't care about the mistakes that you've made. All of those things can work together for good. Here on this channel, we are going to talk to people and highlight their stories, the obstacles they've overcome, the mistakes they've made in order to get to their purpose and to walk in that. And I cannot wait to go on this journey with you. All right, everybody, my guest today is Top Figure Sal. Can I just call you Sal? Is that cool?
Yep, that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
He is a brand builder, co-founding a company called Top Figure, and he even has developed a very handy restaurant app called Tavalo. I think I pronounced that incorrectly.
Travel.
Tavalo. I always want to do that. Tavalo. He has a podcast as well and is just a positive influence on social media. But he's also overcome some adversity too in his life. So welcome to the podcast, Sal.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being on the podcast.
Appreciate it. I'm so excited about this because, you know, it's a little backstory. Sal and I met once in Detroit at an event, and I remember just being so engaged and into the conversation because he's such a positive guy. And you know, I want to start with first before we get into Top Figure and what you're doing to help brands build. Talk about your background, where you're from, and how that's shaped you.
Yup, 100%. Yeah, and I started off really, to be honest, came from a immigrant background. My parents came here from war-torn Somalia, and they immigrated here to this country, and to provide a better future for us, and really to create an opportunity. And really, I've always had this entrepreneurship spirit in me to build things and really to provide for my family and to really pay them back. And to, I started off really, from the passion of building things online and really just building things for my friends and family and, building websites. And, I self-taught myself how to do that, and really seeing that joy in their faces was something that I really enjoyed. And, that passion just continued to grow into really, building, projects online for companies and for small businesses. And generally, I've always been wanting to really help people to achieve their goals online. And that's where I came from. And, the one thing that a lot of people I never really had such a roadmap, I guess. Like, my parents didn't have like a business background. They never had any sort of, they've always said to just go to school, stick to a 9 to 5. And, that was their way of success, coming to this country. And to really defy that was to go against everything they taught me. And it was the most challenging thing to just, tell them, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm not going to school. Like, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to see how this works. And for them to see the constant failures of my my businesses, it was just something to them that was like, hey, I told you, school is, and getting a job is the right way. And really to just, I've always just been so passionate about really, I believed in what I was going to do is always going to work, no matter what, and that was something, and it made me happy, regardless of me making money or not. It always just made me happy,
Yeah, and I can imagine, your parents, they only want you to succeed, they want to see you do well. So when you
100%.
go into these ventures and it's not as smooth as you thought it would be, but that's a part of it, right? So tell me kind of about your first stepping out into maybe the internet wave and what you tried to do and how that turned out for you.
Yep, 100%. So what I did is I went on a limb and, straight out of college, I said, hey, let me decide to start my own agency. And I started off really, signing a lease, an office lease. And I had only 1 month's rent saved up, and I signed a 12-month lease. And, I talk about this, all the time on our podcast of how really that was a really dumb mistake. People would look at that and say, hey, that's not financially smart, but I really, really believed I could get through it. And I really just believed in it so much that, hey, okay, I have 1 month's rent. I can figure it out. I can get another client. I can work there every single day, even if I have to sleep there. And I've done that like 2 or 3 times there. I've slept there, just to figure it out and see. And I started to get my first clients, and just charging whatever I could just to barely make the rent.
Wow.
And I was so grateful and happy for that. And that was one of the things that really, shaped my, where I am today. And it's just that going back to that, I just realized like I didn't really, it could have failed so many different ways. And it really didn't work out all the time, but I was happy at the end of the day. There was one thing that, staying positive was one of the most important things that continued to just let me keep going. And regardless of the negativity and people telling me like, hey, you need to get a job, you need to do this, you need to do that. Those influences, and from my own family too as well, was strong, but and it was difficult, hearing that every single day. But it's just the resiliency just allowed me to keep going.
What was the point of, maybe the lowest point or the point where you thought, I should consider getting a job, or did you?
100%. I definitely considered getting a job multiple times just because of the fact that I was unable to, make the rent work, and just I was barely getting by. And I was like, maybe my parents are right. Maybe I need to, find something that, can, allow me to sustain myself. And, I was behind on my bills and behind on a lot of things. And it was just that one thing that was difficult to hear it from your own family, to say things like, hey, you got to figure it out. You got to, do something else, maybe get a job. And I, you know, thought of it a couple times, but ultimately, I'm glad I didn't listen. And I was always very hard headed. Just, I've always been just the person of just, if I really believe in it, I'm going to stick to it and figure it a way out, regardless. And that's just, it's stuck with me till today. So, but I definitely had those thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think it's good for people to know that, because if you're going through a hard time, if you're in a rut or in a position where maybe things aren't taking off how you had hoped, or you're really second guessing your decision to do whatever it is, whether it is building a business or a school or choosing a particular industry, that everything's not going to always be smooth. So at what point did you realize, or I guess at what point did it happen for you where things started to really shape up and take off in the way that you want?
Yes. So, and that really happened in, multiple times really for us. And the one thing I would say is the first time it happened was just consistency. The one thing I really preach so much is just, consistency in whatever you do. You're gonna get more chances to get lucky. A lot of people think that, you get lucky right away, or, he was lucky doing this or that. But honestly, going in the office every single day and figuring it out and not seeing results right away was just something that, was so consistent. We would just constantly go to the office every single day, figure it out, like, hey, and we would always learn something new every single day. And then it got to a moment where, this one client approached us and he said, hey, I'm willing to take a risk on you guys. And hey, I want to see what you guys can do. And I can definitely refer you guys to somebody. And, me being the, how, let me figure it out. Let me help this client out and, figure out how I can really help grow him online. And it was just that defining moment for us to just give it our all. And in doing so, it really, took off. And that was one moment a lot of people figured out about us. A lot of people saw, and it was that word of mouth. We just did our best. Granted, we didn't get paid a lot. We just got paid, just to do the well, because we didn't know how to price our services in the beginning. And when that happened, people just consistently kept coming to us, and we were just like, hey, this is working. So we need to continue. We need to learn more things in order to get to the next level. Now, we've gotten to that point where now people know about us. Now let's figure out how we can provide more value. Let's document our journey. That was one of the things that really helped us take it to the next level. Once we started documenting everything and started documenting our struggles, documenting what we go through, more people started reaching out to us, and then it was just more of a domino effect ever since. And it's just been like that ever since. It's just, whether good or bad, document it. And it's like, people at the end of the day aren't perfect, and they want to work with people who, are just like them. So it's like, that was one of the defining moments that really allowed us to just say, hey, let's just continuously keep documenting, whether we're winning or losing.
Yeah. So, being, I guess, open and real about it really probably endeared you to people along your who wanted to follow your journey with you almost. Do you find that as you've moved into a more stable position, if you will, that things have gotten a little bit easier, or are there new challenges that you're always trying to contend with?
Absolutely. The one thing I would say is there's always going to be challenges, but the main thing is having the mindset to overcome it. Because in business, you're taught to success isn't a smooth ride. It's always just laid with more hurdles, and those hurdles are there for you to just make you stronger. So there's always those things that, those thorns that are there to just, allow you to get better and stronger, and, and improve your business. So that's never going to really go away. I don't think there's any sort of point where anybody can say like, it's smooth sailing from now on. There's going to be a storm that happens. It's just a way of life. But ultimately, the one thing I realized was, you get to a point where you become almost grateful, and having that gratitude sink in, where you're like, okay, hey, regardless of whatever happens, I'm okay. And you look and you actually think of the worst case scenario, and you're like completely fine with that. And that's where you get to a stage of like ultimate bliss, where opportunities and more things start happening for you, because the energy, people reciprocate energy. Whatever energy you put out into the world, you're always going to get back. So that's what we have always, done. And every single time in our businesses, we've always put out a great energy to our clients. We've taken on projects that we really believe in. We don't just take on whatever, we really believe in the project, and we believe in the success of the client. So it's just that was one of the best things that really just helped us keep snowballing. And I wouldn't say there isn't a smooth sailing. There's always new challenges, but remaining optimistic and happy is what really allows us to continuously keep thriving in that.
Yeah. And that peace, having that peace, like you said, that no matter what, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
one of the other things that, well, I guess we could go a little bit deeper into, the actual brand building. I mean, is that the anchor, or the very stronghold of your business, or is it the podcasting and all the other stuff as well? Like how would you rate it?
Yes, that's a great question. So the brand building is something that we do ourselves internally in our businesses, and we build and grow brands every single day. And we also teach people how to do that themselves, right? So we show people what we're doing every single day, for our brand. We show them exactly how we were able to get our brand off the ground. We share our tips of how, we're improving, because ultimately, when we find anything new, or when we find that it's a new strategy that works for us, we're very transparent and open about that. So we are always, that's the part of our business that is thriving, and is really just, people come to us for that. And the podcast is more so a value add for our audience, and they absolutely love the podcast, and we're very open on that. We just simply, just like how we're doing today, we're talking about, things that come to our mind, and we're having a great conversation here. People love to want to hear that, and they want to hear these things, every single day. And we release a new podcast every week to help inspire and continuously motivate people, and to also share what we're going through every single day.
Yeah.
So that's the two parts of our business that really is. And then we have the tech startup, our mobile app that we run, but Top Figure is our main business.
So when you start to see yourself in Time or Forbes and different publications that hold so much weight, like what is the reaction to that?
Yeah, oh, it's definitely amazing, and something that is, when you working hard on something for so long and not receive the recognition that you deserve. It's one thing that we realize is it's just the backbone of the consistency of work that we've been focusing on and doing. And
Yeah.
it's a little refreshing when people pick that up and acknowledge us for that. And it's something, doesn't stop us from working working, granted, we're always going to be working hard in our businesses, but, it's just that moment of, just like a pat on the back and, or acknowledgement, like, hey, this is working, keep going and keep on, we use it as a more of a motivational boost for us to keep on going, because there's always something better. And ultimately the goal is to really help inspire as much people that look like us to be in the same rooms and in the same positions as us, because there are multiple different ways to gain opportunities in this country, and it's having control and of your own, having the ownership of your own platform, like having a podcast, having these kind of things. When we really want people to really understand that the barrier of entry is really low, it's more so just that getting started thing. You don't have to have the fancy equipment, you don't have to have the really fancy items and expensive camera equipment and such. Like these type of things, we started off with we used to record on our phones for the first 4 or 5 episodes.
There you go.
We used to
these phones can do so much. So I mean, why not use them to our benefit?
Exactly. And it's like that was one of the defining moments that we realized was like, we don't ever need to really get fancy. It's like that's the one thing that I realized was, and just being able to let as much people who look like us know this information and is so important to us.
Absolutely. And, I would have to imagine that some of the feedback from businesses or people who you've helped to build their brands, whether it's through the classes and, all that you do, has been so rewarding.
Mm-hmm. It's so fun to really see that. And it's really refreshing to see people, really reap, like the rewards of just being able to just share your knowledge, because ultimately there is an abundance of knowledge. And it's like, we're not really given a roadmap. Like our parents, like, didn't really have a background. They came to this country with nothing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and they weren't business owners. And I have my, our co-founders here too. They don't have any. We never were really given a roadmap of, hey, here is how to build generational wealth, And it's like, our parents never came from money. Our parents never really understood what a business even was. So to get through that is something that is really definitive. And it's just that, like, that defining moment, like aha moment, like, hey, we got to share this with as much people as we can.
That's the type of stuff that gives me goosebumps, when the hair on your arms raises up.
Yep.
You look at what you're building for generations to come, and having that that deep-seated feeling to just to continue on for the people who are gonna continue to come after you. I think that's really dope. To that, let's talk about some other adversity, because I got to mention this high-profile situation where you're based out of Minnesota, and so in Minnesota there was a situation that went viral, a racist incident where the police were called on you. Talk about how that kind of, what that did for you, and just the incident itself. How was that?
100%. Yeah. It was an unfortunate incident that happened, and granted, we wish the best for the gentleman that was in the room with us, but ultimately the one thing that we really takeaway from it is, the conversation could have, it's a sad reality that we live in a country where there are prejudices and stereotypes on the color of your skin in specific rooms, or where people think that you don't belong. But, the biggest takeaway is like, hey, this gentleman profiled us in a building. We simply just were, very calm and adamant about it, because in our business, we're always trained to just say, hey, deal with every situation in the most professional manner possible, and never really react or lash out, when you see these type of things. Granted, it could have went completely south,
Yeah,
and the cops,
for people who don't know, he called the cops on you because you were at a building where you are, supposed to be.
Yeah, we were at our office building, and this gentleman, like, he threatened to call the cops. Granted, the cops didn't show up. He called the building owner, the manager, and that manager showed up. But those words are really powerful. It's like you don't really, you don't really say that to somebody who's, simply working out in a building, and to think that, we can't belong in the same space in a professional atmosphere, and just a gymnasium that's in a private building that we pay for. It was just, it's sad. And it's like the conversation could have went so much different. Like, every time we network with people, we're always, curious of what they're doing, and we're always, approaching people with like, hey, a bunch of curiosity, like, hey, what do you do for, and let's collaborate. Let's like the way we met, and it was just that approach of just, hey, curiosity of how can we work together. And look at this, like a year late, to what has it been? It's been a while. Like, and that, just a simple conversation like that sparks and creates, a really, a relationship like that. And that's how the way of the world, and we really wish that everybody could operate this way, but it's unfortunate that some people don't really have that eye to do that. And it's, but that was, yep, the biggest learning moment was really, to be honest, is just to remain calm, remain professional in those atmospheres, and just to also realize that, hey, to document, always document. The one key thing that, because ultimately you don't know how people can spin stories and all this kind of stuff. Like, always remember to document. And that was just a defining moment to us to continue to document every situation and every instance of what we're facing, and the obstacles and the wins and everything like that. So
yeah, I have to, tip my hat to how it was handled, just based on the little bit that I had seen about it. And I know dealing with that, keeping your cool is the main
oh
thing.
my god, you want to, but it's just like you don't, you want to remain calm. And it's like, because you don't want to be labeled as the angry black, like, it's just that you don't want these things to, because your voice to be diminished. You want to remain professional and calm, and to really just let your voice be heard, and let people do their thing.
What would you say are, if you had to tell somebody, these are the three things that I did that I would definitely do again in starting another venture. This is what I would do. And maybe what are three things that you wouldn't do, or one thing?
Yeah, no, those are great. I would say, so three things. Like, number one is to document. So whether that be just recording on your phone, whether that be recording on a small camera that you have, document and post it. And really, to go from, to also add to that, like, don't worry about what you post, because ultimately, if you think that you're not going to get as much views or as much likes or comments, like, that shouldn't dictate how much, because ultimately it will get viewed someday. If you just keep on documenting, you'll create that luck for yourself, or that viral, when you do become viral, which is only a matter of time, because ultimately everybody has the opportunity to really document and create content, and to keep on publishing your journey is so underrated. And to just post it. And that's something I would always, if I were to start over again, I would start early, and I wouldn't overthink what I would post. I just wish I hadn't done that early on, where I would think it has to be perfect. And that was one of the things that, so I would say. And number two, I would say, is to always, really, the people around you is the biggest thing. For us, like, the people around us, without having them, positive people who are also around us, hyping us up consistently, telling us, like, hey, we're all getting it. We're all going to get what we want. And it's like, having a good circle of people is very important. And that was one of the things that helped us so much. Well, let's say when outside influences and our parents or family and all these kind of things, we found a good group of unit of people who would just, and we're really great friends to this day, and we do business together. And it's like, just we will always, regardless of whatever we were going through, we would always remain positive. And then, ups and downs, whatever it would be, we'd just be positive, and we would celebrate with these people. So having a great circle of people around you is so key and necessary. Getting that early on is so very important. And I would do that again if I started off. And the third thing I would say is to, number one, is to always remember that failures are just a part of the game. It's okay to consistently fail. Failure is just important, if not the most important thing, because the thing is, you're going to learn from that. So embrace your failures and look at it as a learning curve, because nobody really discusses their failures as much or nobody pays attention to them. when you do make it. So just disregard it and just try a bunch of different things. And, starting off, that's what we did. Was we tried everything. And, and like a lot of people think that, we were able to get to where we're at today. We tried everything, like marketing, we did real estate, we did like MLMs, we did so many things and failed at like every single thing, and realized and found what we're actually passionate about. And when you focus on what you're really passionate about, then the money is just a byproduct. It's just a byproduct to that, and it just allows you to really, you know grow tremendously. So those are the three things. I know it's a bit long, but
No,
those are the
that's
three
good.
things
That's good stuff. I mean, the other part of it is what you wouldn't do, or I don't know if there's like one thing that just sticks out. Like, nope.
Oh, the one biggest thing is overthinking. Like if we didn't overthink things and just posted early, much more early on, it really would be a defining moment in our business and just allow us to really scale.
I think it's difficult in the sense that you have a brand and you know what that brand means and what you want it to be. So you're trying to be in, you know, you want it to be cohesive. So whatever you post, you want it to line up with what the brand is. But you're saying that the journey is just as much a part of building that brand.
Exactly. Yep. It's very important. That journey is important, and like documenting that journey, people, and it also serves as a tool for you to look back and see what worked, and remember and look back and say, hey, this worked out, this didn't, and it's just very important.
Okay. I just got a notice on my computer here. Okay, so I got to wrap this up. So, sorry, what's the number one question that you get asked?
The number one question that we get asked a lot is, where do I start? And a lot of times, everybody, we get this DM so many times, like, where do you start? Where do you start? Where do I start? And honestly, where you get started really doesn't matter. It's just the biggest thing is just starting. That's it. It doesn't matter what you start off with, because let's say you start off with something and then you get into something else, like you end up realizing this is not for you. You're gonna take the things you learned from what you started early on to that next endeavor. So never get caught up in the, what should I start or how do I start? It's just get started. That's it.
Just get started. That's all you got to do. We'll leave it right there. Sal, thank you so much for doing this. So I just wish you nothing but the best and continued success. And I hope people follow you. Let them know where they can get in touch with you and learn more about Top Figure.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's pretty easy to reach us. You can either follow us on socials, Team Top Figure on Instagram, Twitter, and, Facebook. They can find us there. And then, the one thing is, go to the website topfigure.co. That's Top Figure, TOPFIGURE.co. And yeah, you can get all the information, sign up for the classes, get our merch there. But yeah, no, this was exciting, and I really appreciate you having me on this podcast.